You're listening to the Ask Drone U podcast. You ask, we answer your drone questions. Whether you're here to turn your passion into profit or you simply fly for fun, we're a community of learners and teachers who aspire to achieve greatness. We are
Drone U.
Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you're listening. Welcome to another awesome episode of Ask Drone U. My name is Paul.
And I'm Rob, and you're listening to episode number 361. And yes, as always, we thank you for spending a few minutes of your day with us.
We definitely do. And you may be wondering, if you're watching on YouTube, why there is an Inspire 1 Pro right in front of us. Well, I guess it's not the Pro. It doesn't have the X5 on there. But
still pretty nice looking bird.
Brand new Inspire, brand new clips,
Spiffy.
Everything. Why do we have it in front of us? Well, it's the topic of our discussion today on the podcast. We've kind of figured out a little hack, and finally someone asked a question when we could answer it and give you the tips, tricks, and nuance to get some really amazing footage. So if you've ever had a difficult time flying in the wind, if you've ever had a difficult time flying period, and you need smoother camera operating skills, we're going to teach you how to do it without knowing how to operate a camera or a drone.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great question, number one, which we'll get to here shortly. And I think a lot of people would probably benefit from maybe using more than one person on the sticks.
Well, that's the thing, is that I don't know if the other person's going to be on the sticks there, Robbo.
Oh, okay.
You see where I'm going with this?
Sounds tricky. All right.
Anyway, today's question is brought to you by Legal Flyer. Are you a drone pilot? Are you operating under a Section 353 exemption? Then you may be familiar with Item 27, which requires you to get a property release for every flight over property.
Legal Flyer is an app for iPhone and iPad that helps you create professional property releases in less time than it takes to do a pre-flight check.
You can add your pilot info, you can sign in, hand it to the property owner for their signature. But wait a second. Legal Flyer's advanced integration automatically adds latitude, longitude, and even altitude.
Then add a panorama straight from the app. Everything drops into a single-page PDF you can share with a single tap. It's compliance at light speed. Visit LegalFlyer.com for more information or get it straight from the App Store. Legal Flyer. Property releases for professional drone pilots.
Oi, I was wondering if Paul does any dual operator shooting, pilot and camera operator with the Inspire. When and where you guys think that setup is beneficial over a one-man operator? Cheers. Man, that was a really great British person. They've got.
I wonder who that was.
That's
I guess it was David. I didn't know he was British, though.
I guess David.
He is now.
You know, he didn't. Well, yeah, he is now. That's right. That is exactly right. This is a great question, Rob. I personally find two-camera operation really difficult, and I find it really difficult because I've been practicing as a one-man op forever.
So it's the way you learn, the way you grew up, so to speak.
Yeah, it's the way I grew up in the hood.
That's right.
The drone hood.
That's right.
Anyway.
Of the Northeast Heights.
Anyway, in the foothills. Anyway, my point is this, is that it's very hard to communicate with a second operator, especially if you haven't been practicing with them for a long time. Now, there's a couple guys that I've done some dual op control with, but whenever even they look at the footage afterwards and I look at the footage afterwards, there's still a great amount of yaw or, side-to-side motion that really doesn't make the image look pretty anymore.
You gotta practice to the point of being like Montana Rice, right? Where they knew what the other was thinking almost.
Yeah.
Quarterback knew where the receiver was going to go. He threw the ball there before the receiver ever got there, even made his cut. I mean, that's the kind of intimacy you really have to have if you're going to do a dual operator setup.
So true. So true. Man, there's just you have to have that. It's just a deeper level of communication, understanding, piloting skills, the whole 9 yards, because you can run into problems when you're flying, someone else is operating the camera, they're pointing the camera another direction, you think you're moving that direction, and bam, you lose it in Inspire.
Right.
So you can make expensive mistakes with this thing. So what is the trick? What is the tip? How to get these beautiful, smooth cinematic motions? Well, it's actually using the app. And I guess we should really answer the question first on, do we think that there's any benefits for shooting with two people? I think that there may be benefits shooting with two people, but as we've said before, as we've been saying, you've got to have a very clear line of communication.
Right.
You've got to have emergency procedures set up to say, okay, I'm moving the camera back. I need to know where I'm flying, which you can do if you set up the back button on your Inspire, a C1, to do camera yaw reset, I believe is what it's called. And you can just click that button, and then the camera is going to move really quickly all the way to the front, and you'll know exactly where you are. Now, is it beneficial? I think it could be beneficial if you're doing subject tracking shots, because those are, again, the most difficult of the most difficult shots.
Right.
And if you don't have practice doing it over a period of time, yeah, I could see a dual operator setup being really awesome. But if you practice these single operator shots, I think you would really be blown away by how much you really can control the drone and control the camera just by yourself.
Well, I would think that, and certainly this is the approach that you've taken, you would want to learn as much as possible doing it solo, because you're going to find yourself in those positions where you're going to be solo and you're going to want to get shots. And if you're not practiced in doing that, then you're going to be stuck not getting the shot that you wish you could get.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And I've had that happen to me before, where I'm working with the dual operator, and finally I said, okay, now put your remote down, and I'm going to take off and land again, or land and take off again, and leave your remote on the ground. And I got one time, this guy was like, what? Why? And I'm like, because you're not getting the shots. And we have a job here to do. We have a deliverable to provide, and you're not providing it. And I can sit here and be mean and be like, you suck, or I can say, hey, will you put down the remote and let me do my job?
Right.
So, I guess there's two ways to skin a cat.
Sorry, cat lovers.
Anyway, but you can end up missing the shot. Is it beneficial? Yes, if you have the practice, if you have someone you've been working with consistently, if you have the emergency procedures.
So in answering this question, we're sort of leaning towards the cinematography, videography side of the question.
Correct.
What about more of the industrial side? Maybe some of the bigger birds, the S900, the S1000, and some of the things that people would be doing with those.
I think then that is a very, very good concept to use a dual operator, especially in these higher price jobs where you've got to be flying very close proximity to objects. You want to have a camera operator, and you can use variable zoom on those bigger rigs, so you can fly further away and still get great imagery as if you were much closer. Like, for example, you can fly that Sony A7, A6, A6300 with the 16 to 50 lens and actually control the lens from the ground. You can do the same thing on the Inspire with the variable zoom Olympus lens.
Right.
So, yes, I think that there are very good times that you can use that. And again, when you're doing those inspections, it's more of photos. It's not, the cinematic motion, right?
Right.
But I will say, too, that, in what I've said already about dual op versus single op, I do have a bias towards single op because I have been flying single op a while. I have tried dual op maybe 7 to 10 times, and I've been trying to keep myself open to it and practice with it. But at the same time, I'm not happy with the results, and I feel I can do it better on my own. Now, that's a unique case, Rob. I fly all the time. I told Sam, our intern, if you want to be good, you got to fly every day, and now he is, and you really do. And if you want to have that skill, you've got to have that. So I've honed my skill so much.
Right.
If I deviate from that course, I think I'm really going to end up hurting myself in the long run.
Sure. So it's just that deliberate practice that we've talked about in the past and getting good at doing it yourself. What about like legal or FAA requirements? Is there any requirement in certain circumstances that you're aware of that people would be needing to use two ops?
Well, here's the thing. The only FAA requirement is that if you had dual ops, you'd have to have a separate spotter. So you're not increasing your team.
As in a third person?
Correct. You're not increasing your team from 1 to 2, it's 1 to 3.
Okay.
So, you're going to have to pay someone else to be out there and make money too. So there is that sequence. You totally hit on a point, and I'm trying to remember where we were going with this right before that question about dual op versus single op and FAA.
Inspections
one of the things that is another downfall to the Inspire, and the Inspire is my favorite bird to fly. I think everyone knows that. But one of the downfalls of it is that it does not have an FPV camera. You do not have a dedicated camera. If you're using a dual operator setup, normally the single operator normally the pilot in command has their own video feed. So they always know which way the drone is facing. They always know their orientation. They can fly FPV, no problem. But the Inspire does not have an FPV camera. Now, you can get an FPV camera. You can, add that on, but you're increasing the weight. And, when we increase the weight, we decrease the payload and we decrease the endurance.
Right. Of course, I would think that if you wanted an FPV camera, it would be relatively light.
Yes, but you've got to power the camera. You've got to power another transmitter. Just think about that, right? So it's not just the camera. You're adding a camera, a video transmitter, OSD, on-screen display, and a battery to power it. Unless you can figure out a way to power it, off of the main power, which I haven't seen done yet.
Cool. So when we've got two operators, for those people that are going to be doing that, do they have to stay within some proximity of each other?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Within a few feet.
So they have to be able to communicate verbally, essentially.
Yes.
Okay.
And, when I say it's like communication is so important and so key, you have to have the same definitions of the same shots. If you're like, hey, I want to do a nice, upper rotating reveal. Let's go left to 45 degrees. You both have to know exactly what that means. Okay, so I'm going to be moving the drone forward, slowly tilting the camera up to a nice yaw to the left-hand side, and we're going to stop when we're at 45 degrees. You know what I mean? You have to fundamentally understand everything as you are the same person.
Makes sense.
So,
yeah. Again, it's that quarterback-receiver mentality.
That is true.
And that's going to take a lot of time of working together. I almost think you'd be better off, unless, again, you're doing the big industrial stuff and it's more an issue of safety, for example. But you'd be better off just practicing on your own and getting good at that.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I've said, there have been many times where I've done the dual op and I literally told the guy, put your controller kit down, man. It ain't doing it.
Step away from the controller.
Sir, will you step away from the controller? We got a problem here. We can't get the footage we need. So.
That's right. All right, cool.
But it is true. Now, all right, the hack. Here's a little tip and trick. So for you guys out there, if you want to know how to use the Inspire and get really cinematic motion, this is how you do it. You don't need a second operator. Well, you don't need a second operator that needs to know how to control a camera or how to control a drone. All they need to know is how to control their index finger.
Whoa.
Sorry, that was a little aggressive on the index finger.
I'm going to poke an eye out with that thing.
Yeah, be careful. Anyway.
Anyways.
Why do I say that? Well, there's this, I call it a glitch, call it a hack, whatever you want to call it. If you open up the DJI Go app on your iPad, on your tablet, whatever you're using, and you take the drone off, fly to where you want. You can let the drone be stationary. You can put the drone in attitude mode and just let it float around if you know your surroundings. And a spotter is very key and important when you're doing these type of shots. I just want to say that right away. That being said, put the drone up, and you'll notice if you've ever used the Osmo that you can tap on the screen, hold your tap, so you're not tapping and letting go, you're tapping and holding, and you'll see a blue circle appear on screen. Now, if you move your finger right and down, you'll notice that you can get these really nice, smooth, slow reveals up and down, side to side, panning, tilting, rotating, whatever you want to call it, in any direction, 360 degree, fully controllable. It is a beautiful thing. And you can do this yourself, and there are some conditions, Rob, where I love to do this on my own, even if there isn't someone else there. Windy conditions where, it's so windy where, I have to get the shots no matter what, and I'm really not happy with how intense the wind is, but I got to do it anyway. So I'll take off, and here I'm about to show you an example. I took off recently out of the back of my truck and was, going on this ranch and flying this ranch, and it was a 30-mile-an-hour wind with like 40-mile-an-hour gusts. And no matter what you do, you're not going to get smooth motion just because you're getting tossed around so much in the wind. So I put her in attitude mode. I'm floating in the wind.
So you moved over to the side.
I flew into the wind.
Right, and then it would carry you the way you want to go.
Yes. So I flew into the wind, and now I'm being carried by the wind in attitude mode, which is, by the way, quite fast. And I just used the app to tap, hold, and rotate, and I got these beautiful motions that I normally wouldn't be able to get in those conditions. Now, you can do this with another person if you train them, but I have found this little hack to be extremely useful on my video shoots.
Right. I will say, because we played with this a little bit before we started the podcast, and it'll take a little getting used to in terms of matching the finger movement to the movement of the camera. It's not that big of a deal, but work with it a little bit to get used to that
Definitely.
that sinking, so to speak.
You know what's really cool on the new Ronin MX, which we have to get here at Drone U. Sorry, did I say that out
Add to
loud?
the list.
You
You
can
700 and
you can do the same thing on the Ronin MX, and that singular feature is why I would want a Ronin MX over any other gimbal. Seriously.
cool. All right.
So, but
Well,
we
it's on the
may
list.
not actually get that because as long as we get the X5 and the Osmo, we can do the same thing.
Yeah.
So whatever.
We'll probably go that route.
Yeah, it's only $1,500, right?
Piece of cake.
No big deal.
Anywho.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much for your questions. Check us out, askdroneu.com. If you've got a question, upload there. I can't talk today. Upload your question there at askdroneu.com. If you found this podcast useful, please leave us a review and let the world know what you think of us. It really helps other people find the podcast. Also, if you are listening on iTunes or Stitcher, check us out on YouTube. Subscribe there. Subscribe on iTunes. And again, please leave us a review.
Please.
We're very excited about our new sponsors coming on board.
We are.
Divi Map, John Rupert and J. Rupert Law, and also a very cool brand of lamb-based jerky. I can't say beef
Who would have
jerky.
thunk? Ask Drone U, but it's good stuff.
Well, I guess we have the right audience, so hey. Anyway,
Yeah.
well, mostly guys eat beef jerky.
That's true. That's
So-
true. It's kind of a
and-
male-dominated thing.
And mostly, 25 to 55. So
Yeah.
we
No, you're right.
Kind of hit that.
So
on
we
the
nailed
head.
it.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, that's gonna do it for us today. Be sure to check out all the cool courses, all the cool material that we have on our site, thedroneu.com. That way, you can learn more, stay educated, and be a part of an everlasting, growing community of pilots who truly want to help themselves. That's gonna do it for us today. My name is Paul.
I'm Rob.
This is Ask Drone U.
We believe that videos, images, words, and sounds have the absolute power to inform, inspire, and entertain. We reject indecision, confusion, and vanity, for they work against the community. We are united under the virtues of safety and knowledge. We are a training community of learners and teachers who encourage and energize each other to achieve greatness. We are pilots, videographers, photographers, freelancers, business owners, enthusiasts, experts, and apprentices. We are creators. We are the Drone U.